Hello and welcome to Word on the Street. If you've not been here before, welcome. My name is Katie Street. I am the host for this podcast, and you have come to the right place if you want to attract and win more new clients for your business. And I mean, even if you came across this by accident, I'm assuming you probably work somewhere, and attracting and winning new clients, especially in the current environment, is going to be important to most of us. So today, as always, I am joined by an amazing guest, and in fact, someone that I can now say is a very close friend of mine, Tracey Shirtcliff. Tracey and I actually met on the BEMA, British Interactive Media Association, a kind of digital network membership. We actually met on a ski trip, and since then I've learned more and more about Tracey, and in fact there may be some ways that we're going to collaborate together because we do have a similar audience in terms of the marketing and B2B services that we provide. So if you don't know Tracey, you're about to find out more about her, but I'm just going to give a little bit of an intro to her for you. So not only was she winner of the Queen's Award for Enterprise and Innovation, she was shortlisted by Campaign for the Digital Maverick Award. She has also been a bronze winner for the Campaign Creative Tech Awards for her current business Scope. She is a force of nature, a female business woman and powerhouse that you are absolutely going to love meeting with me today. She is currently founder and CEO of the Virtu Group, where they have developed a software platform called Scope, which helps professional service businesses to move from hours roles to people to really focusing on quoting outputs and products. And I know we do touch a bit on that today. You're going to really love and enjoy hearing about how you can move. I mean, it's a subject we're always thinking about, right? How can we not just quote based on hours and really start to quote based on value? So you're going to learn a lot from Tracey on that. But before that, she was the founder and CEO of Traffic Live, also known as Sohnar, or founded by Sohnar, which she ran a successful acquisition and sold her business for millions and millions and millions of pounds to a business called Deltec. We do delve into some little secrets there. So again, if you're interested in finding out how to scale and sell your business, your agency business, whatever kind of business it is, I promise you Tracey is a true inspiration. So without further ado, let's go and meet my friend, my inspiration, the fantastic Tracey Shirtcliff. So hello Tracey, and welcome to Word on the Street.
Hi Katie, delighted to be here.
This feels really funny because Tracey and I met through a work thing on a BEMA ski trip, but then we've also partied together in the summer. Tracey came to my 40th, or you did come to my 40th, and we went to Wilderness together, which was great fun. But now we're going to focus on the business stuff. And this actually is quite interesting for me because although I know you personally, I don't feel like we've ever deep dived into each other's businesses. So I'm going to learn a lot today, as well as our listeners are going to learn a lot. And as well as the subject that I know we kind of gave you or that we've come up with together, I've got a real theme of talking about resilience in the workplace at the moment. So I do want to touch on that as well.
I love a bit of resilience. In fact, I'm sure I can talk lots about that.
So let's get started. I would love to learn more about Tracey. So let's get started with what you're doing today and tell us about your business.
Delighted to tell you about my business. So I am currently running a B2B enterprise level SaaS tool. It's called Scope, and it's designed to help businesses to price and scope for the work that they do in a better way. I'm passionate about pricing and the importance of that in business. It's officially called a CPQ with regards to a Gartner quadrant. So that stands for Configure, Price, Quote. And that fundamentally sits between a CRM system, which we all kind of know about. Salesforce made that sector kind of famous, and an ERP or an accounting system. So, we're officially called a CPQ. It's a relatively new space, and we replace anybody who's working at the moment with Excel spreadsheets or Word documents to produce their sales documents, their proposals, and their scopes of work.
And particularly for agencies or?
So agencies is our cornerstone. It's something that I know, and I've run a previous successful SaaS business in that space. So yes, we're working with agencies, and I guess our headline agency that we're really proud of is Ogilvy. If you've got them, they've won more awards than most known agency groups on the planet. So that's kind of a good one. But we're also working with media businesses, and my aspiration is to take this right across professional services in general. So to management consultants and to IT consultancies, into architecture, engineering, and finally into legal. We've actually even developed an MVP for legal. I'm quite passionate about that because I've got this real thing about why we hanker in on the billable hour. I don't think that's a winning formula for people, for businesses, or for kind of our souls.
No.
When I don't even know where we kind of came from that as a concept. Value is really what people should be buying, and if you do a job, it takes you a long time and you get paid more, doesn't kind of serve anybody well.
Yeah, no. Do you know what? I don't quote by the hour. Ha ha.
I think that's the way forward, and that's one of the things that I'm passionate about at Scope. I mean, we're in this at the moment around hours because I think it's, dare I say, it's the laziness of where we got to a long, long time with agencies. When media got broken off from creative, all of a sudden somebody in the back office said, oh shit, how are we going to pay for this creative piece that's separate, and we're going to need to make money off it now because it's not wrapped up in the media spend. And then like, I know, we'll break down somebody's cost, add a bit of an upside on top, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So somehow we got locked into hours, roles and rates, and we've been wedded to that as an industry ever since.
Yeah, and because everyone else does it, we do the same. We're like lemmings.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
And it's certainly not serving the business, it's not serving the people, and it's not serving clients. And what do people even do if you're talking about a mix of hours of somebody who, a team that's putting something together? What you're actually buying is what the deliverable is, or the output, or the thing, or the tasks that make up that function. So no, we're really passionate about that, and that's fundamentally at the heart of what we're trying to do with Scope. And over 20 years in the UK, and they haven't faded very much at all. I know. I don't know. You can take the girl out of New Zealand. You can't take the New Zealand out of the girl. Originally from a large farm, very rural in South Island, New Zealand. So grew up driving tractors, riding horses in the shearing shed or throwing a hay bale around. I've got a undergraduate degree in geology and zoology. One wonders how I ended up doing what I'm doing now. I originally wanted to be a paleontologist until I realised that I would probably be on an oil rig in the middle of the South Pacific somewhere. The odds of women to men sounded quite good in my early 20s, but not so much as you kind of get older. So I moved over. I did a master's degree in marketing and management, of which I got a first-class honours. And then I went into a graduate placement in New Zealand. And then, like everybody does, we got the wanderlust bug. We have something in New Zealand called the Big OE. And I took off and arrived to London in what's supposed to be 6 weeks after a 5-month trip through Asia. And I never left. I've hung a backpack on the wall of my gym in my house, the girl from down under on top. And yeah, I love it. I'm very lucky to be here, and I've worked through a number of businesses. So yeah, I guess the most notable of my previous successes was a business called Sohnar. We produced an award-winning product called Traffic Live. I started that business in 2004 and I sold it in 2015 to an American corporation. We had offices in London, Sydney, New York. We were a team of nearly 100 people. We had nearly 1,000 agencies on our platform globally. It was a hell of a ride, and I felt very privileged to be on it. And I guess the rest of the story is I wasn't ready to hang up my boots. So I delved into again to solve a different problem, which was really not around project management and resource planning. It's really around pricing and putting together the value of what agencies and businesses in the services sector are doing. And I've made it wider than agencies because I think the whole services piece with the way people charge needs a massive overhaul.
Wow, what a career. I mean, honestly, Tracey, everything you've achieved, you should be so proud of yourself. And clearly, like I said earlier, why I want to talk about resilience at the moment, you have been incredibly resilient and brave in order to go through that process, because it's hard, right, running a business. It really is.
I mean, we have some dark days, right? There's days where, you really want to have another day. But somebody once asked me, actually, they said, what is your secret to success? Me and Winston Churchill share this. I just never, ever, ever give up. So, a pivot, I love a pivot. But I think the key thing about resilience is you just have to work out what the way through sometimes is the mire. And it happens to us all. Come up smiling and you'll find a solution. But, never, ever, ever give up.
I think that's the problem, is from the outside, and this is why I love doing the podcast and speaking to so many amazing people, is from the outside, often business looks like this, right? It looks like it's going up, 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 up. Everything's rosy, everything's hunky-dory. Wasn't this an amazing, journey? And most of it is really, really fun. But amidst all of that, there's, like you say, some really dark days and some really tough things often to navigate. So I personally feel when you're in those moments, when you're in the moments where you feel terrible and you're scared and you're having to make quite brave or sometimes things that feel a little bit crazy to do, but you're having to make quite big decisions quite quickly. And sometimes that's about, getting rid of staff. Sometimes that's about hiring staff. Sometimes that's about changing your whole business model. But it isn't this journey of just up, 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 up. It really is a lot more challenging than that. And I think that's where your resilience and your bravery comes in.
Funny, I look at it like there's this wonderful saying as well, opportunity favours the bold, right? So, and I don't look at it as ever going up and up and up. I think it's more like you're on a road and then you feel like, the strategy is, what the road looks like, it's straight ahead, but it's seldom like that. It's more like you weave to the left, you go out a little bit far, you're like, oh, we need to pull it back, and then all of a sudden you're off to the right, and that's fundamentally what we're doing every day. And there's so many moving parts with a business. It can go all the way from people to product to, there's a lot involved, and it's really around putting a great team behind you that you can believe in, having a lot of belief in yourself. And I fundamentally believe, like Winston Churchill, never give up. You just, some days it's dark, other days it's light. So you just need to keep moving forward.
Yeah, make it fun. I think that's the thing. It's about making fast decisions and not being scared to make those decisions and implement them quickly. And I think sometimes businesses get held back, and certainly larger businesses get held back because they can't make the decisions quickly enough to make change. And that's where we've seen it. Businesses at the moment, we're in the middle of a potentially global recession and cost of living crisis in the UK, and some businesses are struggling. There are huge amounts of people being made redundant. The world is, let's be honest, on its arse to a certain extent.
But of course, where there's great adversity, there's also great opportunity. So I think personally, the opportunity in a recessive market to do something smarter and to kind of work harder. I mean, we saw it coming through COVID. I mean, I saw people who were running the same types of businesses. I had friends who were running events businesses who gave up, and other people who were running events businesses who pivoted, went online, did phenomenally successful things and come out stronger and faster than they ever were. I mean, it's kind of, with great challenge becomes great opportunity. So I think, you need to grab that adversity and kind of pivot and try and it's easy to say that, but that's ultimately what we need to do. And I think that in the heart of that is resilience. So no, I'm pretty passionate about that as a strategy for sure.
Yeah. Survival mode. I think I've just got that in me, and I just don't give up. I'm like, there's got to be a way through. I'll do it differently. I'll change it. And I can usually spot the trends ahead, but it's not always that easy. So imagine, let's take you back, all the way back to when you started your first tech company.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what a journey to get to 100 people. Talk me through, I guess, the starting points. How was that business born, and how did it, take me through some of the kind of milestones, I guess, as you grew, and the challenges.
Yeah. So before Sohnar, my last software business, I had another business which was called Content Generators, which was a kind of a content generation business well before its time, kind of riding through the kind of the .com boom and bust times. And we had some great clients like loot.com. Can you even remember them? I mean, there was there was a paper that you had.
Oh, yes.
I know. When I say that to people, they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I've been around that long. And also, I work for Forte Hotels and other kind of people that we did a lot of content for. I was one of the people who did the first set of iPix photography. So these were cameras that had kind of a frog eye lens on them, and they took pictures of rooms, and then you could kind of do a 3D tour. I know, it's like, that was kind of revolutionary back in the day. So I was originally doing that business when we built a system that we had internally to run that business, and that was originally called the Hub, and that was the start of the software that was behind Sohnar and Traffic that eventually was my next big business. So, and it's the same with Scope. I kind of already had the idea around what that was when I was doing the last one. So it's kind of, it's like a niggling sensation that's like, oh, that's a problem that needs to be solved, an itch that needs to be scratched. It's kind of one of those things. There's a pivot in all of us.
There is, but I think it's a very different journey. So obviously I've launched an agency, so it kind of was easy, right? Well, I say it's easy. It wasn't easy, but
nothing is easy.
Nothing is easy, but it feels easier because you go out, I go, hey, I can provide you this service. Client starts paying me. I am straight away making money. But when you're launching a product or something that needs making, you've got to have some money behind you, or you've got to be highly able or willing to not earn money, right, for quite a long time, because you've got to create it, you've got to build it, you've got to then take it to market, you've then got to sell it. So that in itself, to me personally, having launched a service business, feels like in some way there are obviously benefits and, to every kind of business, but actually feels like a more challenging proposition to me, because you've got to potentially go a couple of years without earning any money.
Well, I think what's also changed over time is the profile of tech has changed. So when I started my last software company, it was 2004. So there was no Amazon Web Services. There was no kind of online. So we started by creating a server-based product. It was originally built in FileMaker. And we started by selling a 5-user license with, 3 days of on-site training at £7,500, and then you paid a 20% annual recurring fee. And literally, I look at what we do now as software as a service. It's a completely different business. So in the early days, we didn't have very many competitors, and a woman running a business like that was absolutely unheard of. Now it's uncommon, but it's certainly back then it was quite unusual. And I think what happened in that business, it was a challenge, but transitioning from a server-based software to an online SaaS-based software was probably one of the hardest things I think I've done. But it's very different. You go from selling something that is on-premise in somebody's office to doing something that's online. So the way of delivering it is better. And I've seen just a proliferation of SaaS businesses. there was Instagram didn't exist, Facebook didn't exist. I mean, I can tell you so many things didn't exist when I started. And, LinkedIn, I think I was like on LinkedIn as kind of person 4,080 or something crazy. So, yeah, the change has been massive.
Yeah, I mean, the world is changing all the time. And that's why as a business leader and as businesses, we can't stay still. You've got to continue. There are so many people that I speak to and they're just so, well, we've got this plan and we're sticking. No, the world is changing all the time.
Yeah.
You've really got to be able to change with it, because I think if you don't, you can come unstuck. Well, your whole business can fail very, very quickly if you're not keeping up to speed with what's going on in the world, the market, other tech companies in your space. You've got to be one step ahead, to my mind, all the time. And that
certainly, if you're a new player, what I'm always surprised with in the software area is that there's a lot of big monolith software that seems to be kind of stuck in various different parts, and I think there's always the opportunity to kind of refresh and renew. And the differences I've seen, you asked how you kind of go from starting a software business once and then doing it again. The profile has changed. Like, it's definitely more expensive, and there's greater barriers to entry now. Tech is more expensive. It takes longer. You have to build stuff in kind of different ways. You need more people in the team. There used to be, people used to multitask. And now, of course, you need, I mean, we talk about full stack developers, but front end, back end, UI, UX, product. I mean, you've got a team, and then you haven't even got into testing and kind of QA. So you've got a team of 10 before you even get kind of running. So no, it's definitely gone upwards from what I needed when I started. I think there's also a change in that whole kind of, in the very beginning, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, totally. And until you start doing it.
You would have been the same when you started street agency. You're probably like, I'm just going for it. And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Resilience.
Yeah. I honestly, Tracey, did not know what I was getting into. I just started. I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go and do some consultancy work. I know how to help agencies attract and win more new clients. And that's literally what I started doing. And then without me even trying, did a good job for, I was working with an Omnicom agency or part of DDB called Tribal Worldwide, my first ever client, still with us today. But in fact, they are just with us today, and then they're leaving soon. After 3.5 years, my first ever client is leaving us. Very sad. Their CEO's left, so it was kind of bound to happen.
That attrition because people leave. I mean, that's a hard thing, isn't it?
It's hard, but I had no idea what I was starting, and we almost accidentally grew and got to about 750,000 turnover, and I was like, oh crap, I have an agency now. And I had quite quickly started to pick up that we were building and we were growing quite quickly, but I hadn't really got a plan. So that's when I got a non-exec in. I was like, right, I really need to shape what it is now. We're really good at marketing and sales because that's what we do. We have to be good at that. So we practice what we preach, and that attracted us lots of new clients, and that's never a problem for us. But then I've got to run a business as well. So very quickly I had to think about that, grow up as a business. So, went from this really fast-paced startup, not really thinking about who we were working with, why we were working with them, what the future was. Got some amazing talent in the agency to, it's been a tough year this year. We've had to, we grew really quickly in the pandemic because there were lots of people that need our help. And I think hopefully we'll have the same again this time. That next phase of, growth will come.
I think that's one of the challenges in a recessive market. People panic, and marketing or sales is the first thing that they cut, stupidly, in my humble opinion, because that's fundamentally when you need to put more on. Like when the going gets tough, the tough get going. But yeah, sadly, that's not necessarily what happens. But
no, I mean, to be fair, at the moment we're still really busy, and our client, obviously, we're working with MarTech and marketing agencies, and we're getting loads of opportunities. So let's hope that doesn't happen. And the smart businesses, like you say, and if you look at the stats, all the smart businesses continued to spend and grew massively, because the others that are pulling back, you get more market share. So your voice is going to get heard more. So there's some basic principles around that. I don't actually think the market is slowing at the moment. I think we did a kind of poll of CMOs, and it was something like 60% of the people that we spoke to said they were actually going to invest more in their marketing. So let's hope they do what they said they were going to do.
Well, a lot of it is self-fulfilling as well.
Yeah.
By talking about it, we're kind of encouraging it. But
exactly.
as I said, there's huge opportunity to make in all sorts of, in every market.
There is, exactly, as long as you're doing it right, as long as you're taking the right approach. Hey guys, just interrupting very quickly because I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you about Tamber. If you're enjoying today's podcast, I know you are going to love the Tamber platform. Tamber is full of all the insights, hints, tips, and fantastic content and training and templates and events that you need to enable you to attract and win more new clients yourselves. If you enjoy the podcast, it's this kind of content that you'll be able to see, get more of, save to your profile, work through training programs with some of my fantastic guests actually. So if you haven't checked it out already, please do www.tanba.io. That's www.tanba.io. Go have a look. I hope you love it, and I hope to see you at some of our online events very, very soon. So I'm going to ask a cheeky question, because I'm sure that you can Google it and find out anyway. You probably know. What did you sell your business for?
Oh, you can't Google it and find out.
Can I not?
Because I had an NDA.
Did you? Oh, so we're not allowed to know.
Well, I have done a podcast where somebody said from £80, because that's kind of a story. Because I arrived to the UK with my backpack and £80, and I remember calling my dad going, I've just got the tube in from Heathrow and it was £5.60. And that's like, Dad, can you send me some money? Absolutely not. You need to come home. This ridiculous wanderlust you're under. Come home now. I was like, well, that's not going to happen. So no, the podcast was, from £80 to 20 million plus, but it was a lot more than that.
Wow. I mean, just amazing, Tracey, the journey that you will have gone on to get to that point, and the things that you will have had to have navigated, well, and making the decision to sell as well. You know, was it a tough decision to sell?
It was a tough decision to sell, which is why people say, why did you go so quickly into a new business and a new idea? Because I wasn't ready to stop. There was a few personal circumstances and a lot of pressure to take the offer on the table. I don't know. I'm never one for looking back, always one for looking forward.
Yeah.
Would life have been different? I've had a hell of a good journey. I did a very great job in kind of spending some of that hard-earned money. I also feel like I negotiated really well for the team that was part of our journey. So a lot of them are still with the acquiring company. Everybody got, more holidays. They all got all of the sort of things that a small startup couldn't kind of offer them. So, yeah, I don't know. Would life be different? Possibly, but I'm pretty happy with my journey so far.
Yeah, too right. And you're probably, I mean, I'm similar to this, is that I love working on new things. I love taking on new challenges. So not that I get bored, but I get itchy feet. I want to do the next thing. And I think sometimes when you're in a business that's got to that size, you probably weren't able to, or not able to change the cog. You of course you would have been, but something new sometimes is the best route, because it's going to bring you to life again.
The funny thing is people acquire businesses because they're doing phenomenally well. They don't ever acquire businesses. So actually, I look back now and I was just at the point where it was like, it felt really easy. But the mind...
You want more hard work.
I was like, oh God, now I'm at the bottom looking at the mountain, climbing up again with my tool belt. And I'm like, have I got enough carabiners for the journey? Have I got my ice pick with me? Have I got... Yeah, well, as in, I felt like I'd got to the summit and it was just enjoying the view. But, it's all in the journey, isn't it? So
it is. Life's all about the journey. Totally. Now, something else you mentioned earlier, I told you I'm not going to follow the brief, so apologies.
I love that though.
But it's much better.
This is good, valuable content for people.
Yeah, and do you know what? I am all about being authentic and asking things that matter. So I'm asking you things that I care about, which I'm hoping everyone listening is thinking the same things. So you've talked a bit about your, I guess, journey to date. And part of that was you're working in an industry, and the tech industry is still today. In fact, I did a panel discussion with a client recently, and it was about digital innovation and how to disrupt the industry. And it was all around, I guess, some of the technologies you were talking about earlier, like composable tech and things that are moving a lot more quickly than these monolithic old technologies. But it's always, I mean, we did have quite a good split in the room, but the panel in this case was all men. And it was really funny. This morning, I was looking at a LinkedIn post from a guy who runs a development, they're mainly a build agency delivering, technical transformations for their clients. And again, in the picture, I was like, do you not employ any women? Like, it's very much a male dominated space. And that sometimes is quite tough. I was talking again about this with someone else this morning. It is, I think, as a female founder, I don't know. You tell me your views. I find sometimes...
I think it's grassroots.
Yeah.
I think it comes from when we're little girls. There's the opportunity of... I mean, I look back to... I always said that I couldn't cook. Of course I can. But I made it very clear that I couldn't, so I wouldn't have to stay at home. I would go out on the farm and drive the tractors and the trucks and go feeding out and do all the things that I thought were fun that the boys did. So... and if you did all of those things, you got labelled a tomboy. Whereas if you stayed at home and did the cooking and and we came through kind of the education system where, the girls did cookery and the boys did woodwork. I mean, we have been preconditioned. So I think that the tide is turning. I mean, I've certainly got a daughter, so I look at my daughter and I know you have a daughter. She's very, very strong in maths. I mean, I remember doing maths and, being told, well, girls aren't good at maths, which is crazy. I mean, really? That's just not, you're better at languages and English and kind of, I mean, my heartland is sciences. So, I've got an undergraduate degree in geology and zoology, but in my final year of geology, there was 50 of us in the class, of which there was 2 women and there was, 48 men. That's not a normal split, is it? So I think I've always been attuned to not really understanding why there's not more, but it's the narrative I think we've been attuned to.
Yeah.
It's the same we talk about, the recession. We're hearing it so much on the news that we're going to start to believe it. But, your business is booming. We're doing very fine, thank you very much. So it's once again about being at a step outside of the narrative, being brave and being resilient and kind of what you decide to listen to and where you decide to go.
Yeah.
So
it's frustrating though, because I do, as much as, look, we're in a much better place than we ever have been, that tech space is still so heavily dominated by men. So there must have been, especially, like you say, quite a long time ago, you launching these businesses where you were surrounded by mainly guys, I'd imagine back then.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. How was that launching? Were you listening
well,
to?
I put a chairman in who was a man, ironically my partner at the time, only because, so that I could be taken more seriously. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, that was like, and I used to kind of not take ownership for the fact that I was, the CEO. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm Tracey. So it was because actually, number one, if you're a woman and you're a CEO, you're a baller and you can't be very nice or very, you're not, all of those things that kind of come with it, or the stereotype of what that is. I mean, that's slowly changing. And certainly we've kind of come, miles ahead now, and hopefully our daughters don't experience it, but I'm sure there'll be a bit of it. And it's still here today, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, sadly, I've experienced such odd things in the workplace with guys, from like them putting their hands on my leg in a meeting. Once, I mean, I did used to work in the drinks industry, but a nightclub owner, quite a famous nightclub owner at the time, I went to a meeting. We must have been talking about one of the, I worked for pretty high profile drinks brands in London and used to do a lot of sponsorship deals. I've always worked in sales and marketing, and I went into the meeting and the guy like hugged me to say hi and like purposefully tried to undo my bra through my top. I mean, and just as a woman, like, I don't know, I felt lots and lots of times that it's almost like they're trying to make you feel inferior. I don't think this happens all the time, and there's loads of you lovely guys out there. So I'm not saying this is as present as it maybe was, but I definitely feel there are still some, unfortunately, those madmen types, from way back when. It does sadly still exist. I still see it. And they don't like an intelligent blonde woman showing up and showing them up. It demasculates them, I feel, in some way. They it is still present, and it's really gutting.
Well, I think it's also a stereotype. I mean, I can't remember people smoking in an office, but that was a thing.
I can.
Yeah.
My first job, I was a receptionist. So my dad was a solicitor. So I thought, oh, maybe that's what I should do. So I didn't follow a normal career path. I say it's my first job. My first job was actually at United Advertising, worked for Exchange Mart in sales. But before that, in my training, I was an apprentice, and I worked at a solicitor's firm in reception, as you do, doing admin and various other funny, odd tasks. And we used to sit in reception and smoke. Like, literally. And people would come in, like clients would come in, and we just sat. I mean, I picked up smoking because I was sat. I mean, I literally hate smoking. It's disgusting. But back then, like, everyone would be sat answering the phones, smoking. It was just crazy.
Yeah.
Another world.
Exactly. Another world. So we have seen fundamental changes, haven't we? Even in our short time of business.
Yeah.
So yeah, goodness knows what our girls are going to see, and that is, I guess, also our challenge, is to continue to keep moving, and how to kind of pivot and shape yourself into what it needs to be for business going forward.
Yeah, give them the resilience as well. I think that's absolutely key. So before we finish, Tracey, I do want to talk about your business today. I feel like there's a whole other episode we could do on pricing strategies and what agencies need to focus on in order to price better, deliver more value. So tell me a bit more about your business today and how it can help businesses, because I think, there's definitely some collaboration opportunities here, because I'm sure a lot of, the guys listening today could do with some help in terms of quoting and, putting better prices out to their clients. But also, I think probably a lot of my clients could do with some help with this. So I'd love to learn a little bit more and some of your top tips for developing better pricing strategies.
So number one, a top tip for pricing strategies is to stop doing everything manually and starting from scratch. So in an agency, and it kind of differs in various different businesses, the typical thing for a creative agency is they'll put together a staff plan in Excel, which will be hours, roles and rates, and then they turn that into a Word document. So already you've got, your staff plan in Excel will be version 3.4.5 final, 3.4.5 final, 3.4.6, 3.4.7. So there'll be errors and there'll be challenges, and you're talking about hours, roles and rates, which mean nothing about the value that you're doing. So you're always better to talk about the thing that you're delivering, because that's where the value is. So fundamentally, I think people need to stop the narrative of talking about hours and start talking about the value they're instilling. So that's at the heart of kind of what Scope believes in. I think the other thing is that you need to come off the fence and start to be clear about what it is that you're selling. So you need to define what I would call your service book. And I hear time and time again, well, but Tracey, we're an agency and everything we do is different. I was like, okay, so you do events. Yeah. You do events that have a team. You do events that are in a location, that you have a build, that you have. So there's kind of a methodology or a series of things. And it's the same. It's like, well, you build websites. Well, I'm assuming that you use wireframes, and then you have some front end dev and some back end dev. You're doing some content. You're doing, there's testing. There's, all of those things that great. So those are the tasks or elements that are the value of what you kind of put together in your pricing. So don't talk about hours, talk about the value of that, which I think is really important. I think then the other thing is kind of the whole continuity. The dirty secret in our industry at the moment is that through COVID or whatever, and certainly going into this recessive market, is that attrition or turnover of staff used to be somewhere between, around 20%. Somebody would say, 25%. Now, that is currently running at somewhere between 50 to 60%. I mean, that's a shocker. So that means that out of 100 people in your business, that you are losing 50% of those 50 people within a year are walking out the door. So if you're coming up with pricing strategies or you're pricing for things in Excel, your intellectual property or the knowledge for your business, your business IP of what you're charging for your services is walking out. So number one, you should have it in a tool for that reason. Excel spreadsheets, you can't report on them, you can't connect them into your other smart systems, so you might be using a workflow or a project management system. It's just kind of smart. It's the one kind of, I think, the final frontier that needs to be automated into smarter practices. And ironically for me, that's the money. We heard Jerry Maguire, show me the money. And for some reason, creative agencies tell me that it's all about the idea. It's like, yeah, great, you could have the best idea in the world, but if you're not making money from that and you're not executing that in a consistent way to help your business grow, and you're having a repository showing you how you're doing that better, learning constantly as you go, really get with the program. Show me the money. Yeah. That's what it's all about.
I think that's key though, isn't it? And agencies become scared because they're competing.
I think at a certain size, agencies are okay to make it up. So, I mean, with Scope, our proposition really starts to kick in once you get to a bigger group of agencies. I mean, if you're Ogilvy, London, for instance, you'll have, 200 project managers or, 200 people who are pricing across clients. So imagine that, hundreds of different Excel spreadsheets feeding in. Scopes are all different, the narrative, the style, that's insane. We're marketing businesses, so we talk about presenting ourselves in a consistent, cohesive way. So, you need to start and you need to practice what you preach, all the way from your brand looks from the ways that you communicate to your client and what you're selling surely is most fundamental. So, I'm really passionate about the why of putting it all together in a cohesive way.
Yeah, I love that. I think it starts a layer back though, because if you can't, as a business, and I've talked about this quite a bit, but probably not for a while actually, if you can't differentiate your business and make it very clear to your prospects, your leads, whoever it is that you're selling to, why you are more valuable or why you're different and they can't buy what you're going to give them from anyone else in the market. If you can't do that, it's going to be really hard for you to compete, and you are often going to be competing on price. And I was talking to someone else about this morning actually, is that they got really stuck. They hadn't really understood what their value was in the market, what they stood for, and why people should buy them. And therefore, they were just like every other agency. We're an award-winning agency. We're this, we're that, we're creative, we're brilliant, but no different to anyone else. So then they were just being constantly, pulled down on price. We need a discount. So they were winning projects, not because they were brilliant, which they were, but because they were the cheapest. And that is a really dangerous place to get into. If you're winning work, I know we often don't win things because we're too expensive. And you know what? Good, because we wouldn't have been able to work with you well because you can't afford us and we're probably not the right partner for you and you're going to have the wrong expectations. The people that want to work with us, that understand the value that we have differentiated in the market, will buy us. The ones that don't won't.
I see it as more of a business that's prepared for success when they stop doing the Me Too and they start doing, this is what we sell, this is what defines us. Then you understand how to sell that better, you deliver that better, and as a business you're much more successful. So pricing for me is the cornerstone of actually getting what I would see is your service offering, what we do as a business together. You wouldn't walk into, you could try, but you wouldn't walk into Boots and pick up two identical products, a Dove product and an own brand Boots. Look at the ingredients on the back and go, Okay, well, I'm adding up all the money of what that involves. So you go up to the counter. I'm like, well, I've worked out the price for this, and based on your charge out rates, I'm going to give you £4. Behind the counter, they'd look at you like you had four heads. This one is priced at £10, and this one is priced, the cheaper version, at kind of £6. But they're made up of a similar type of ingredients. That's around positioning for pricing and for value. So it's a similar type thing. And what is it that you're doing is you're able to articulate in a clearer way what it is that you're selling and the value that you give. And that starts with putting together your service book and your pricing. And then it runs through the entire organisation.
Yeah.
Why is it that consultancies, when they've come into the whole marketing space, are seeming to outrun us and do it in a better way? Because they come to it with a process and a mindset that is clear around we need to define what it is that we do, not another Me Too.
Yeah. Well, they've got a value proposition and one that people
100%.
want to buy, and they're
They're clear
enough.
about what it is that they do, and they can articulate what people buy. And that, for me, starts with a service book. One of the biggest pushbacks that we get with Scope, which always surprises me, is they go, this is going to be hard. Well, you could just pick up the tool today and start using it and just do what you're doing in your Excel spreadsheets. But no, to really get the value out of it, you need to define what it is that you do. Then you ultimately get out of that what your margins are going to be. And then you work out as a business how to do that well and produce it more efficiently so you get better margins. And yes, you can be creative and do unusual things, but there will be an element of that that's a process that's known. And there'll be an element that you need to work a little bit harder on. But it's really about growing up and defining what it is that you do and owning that.
And sorry, forgive my probably very stupid question, but does Scope tell you what you need to charge?
Yeah, there's kind of a couple of things. So Scope has 5 pillars within it. It's fundamentally, the first piece of it is what I call scope and price. So the price element is you can set up a service book. So, you might do, a standard of kind of, we create brochures or events or whatever those things are, and they might have set hours, roles, rates, and you might have a set price on those with a description of what it is. Or it could be something that you do that with a mix and you can kind of edit it, or you could just price for anything. But having a service book to help people define what it is that you sell or what you produce as a business is always a good thing. So that's the kind of the price or service book. Scope is then the function of allowing you to collaborate on what it is that we're going to put together on the proposal, the pricing element, the scope of work, or your fee proposal, or your pricing document, or your whatever you're going to call it. Then it moves into kind of collaborating and approvals, because of course you can't get that. So, all of that version control, all of the information that's lost about when you change what the numbers are, so you don't have a baseline. Why did we come up with that as a price? And then how do you then record back to, did we make money out of that? What is our margins? We're going into, a grown up business here, which says, well, I need to make sure that we're making money, because that's the point. We want to make sure that we're growing so we can put on more staff, that we can offer more value, and we can keep moving forward. So then that whole kind of approval process is really important. And from that, it moves into actually producing the document. So what is the statement of work or the proposal with the right terms and conditions, with the right, MSA terms, with the right, or any of the things you've agreed with the client. That stuff's important. These are as well growing up stuff. And then that gets sent out. There's a version of it so you can refer back to it at any point. And then we can run, reporting or analysis. What am I selling at what point? We can bring time back in so you can see sold to actual if you are indeed interested, to make sure you are selling the right amount of value compared to what your costs are. And then finally, one of the final pillars for us is integrations, because at the moment this whole pricing process is done manually. So why put it into a tool that's going to make your life easier unless you can connect it to the other systems in your business to then move that data in real time, speeding up what I call the opportunity to cash chain.
Oh, I like that. I talk about opportunity to win a lot, but opportunity to cash is even better. I'm stealing that one, Tracey.
Go, take it. I mean, that's really important, isn't it? It's like, as soon as you start to do things, manually, it's like, oh, how do I get that now into my resource tool? Or how do I get that now into my finance tool? Oh, somebody's data entering that? Wow, that's so 1999, isn't it?
Well, it becomes, it's like in my head, I'm thinking of things like our management accounts. Like we look at, which clients are most profitable, but a lot of it is done really manually. We're looking at Xero, we're looking at Harvest, which is our time tracking tool. We're looking at our CRM and our marketing automation platforms like HubSpot, which track conversations with clients. And it's, and obviously the team and then time track. It's really hard. You need something or someone to pull it together.
Fundamentally, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to be the glue that sits in between the CRM and the accounting package. Yeah, we also integrate with those other kind of workflow tools. I know, it's a bold ambition, but I'm up for the challenge.
I love it. Well, of course, I will make sure that we've got links to Scope in the show notes, guys. So if you're interested in finding out more about Tracey's business and how it can help you, please do go and check out the show notes. Also, I'll pop Tracey's LinkedIn profile in there. But Tracey, thank you so much. I could have spoken to you about so many more things today. I feel like this is the starting point for maybe lots more episodes and deep dives and hopefully collaborations. So a big thank you for joining me today.
I'm delighted to be here, Katie. You are a force of nature. My pleasure.
Likewise. Hey guys, I really hope that you enjoyed meeting Tracey today. What an amazing, amazing woman she really, really is. I think that there was so many things that I wanted to dig into with her today. So I'm going to get her back on. I really want to talk and explore more about Tracey's journey as a businesswoman. I need to dig deeper on that. There's lots I think I can learn, and I'm sure all of you guys can as well. So if you liked today's episode, please do go give us a little 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. I really enjoy reading all of your comments. I hope you have found this episode helpful. I am now off to go and have a few drinks with Tracey. So I will let you enjoy the rest of your day, afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. And I hope to see you back here very, very soon.